Hello, career and life development students. Again, my name is Stephanie Lawrence. I'm a part of the Career Services team here at Community Care College. And as your guest speaker this week, we are going to be talking about interviewing. I know that this is something that you probably won't be doing for several months down the road, but we wanted to introduce interviewing right at the very beginning of your program. So that way, if you are the type of person that gets nervous or, has a lot of anxiety just thinking about interviewing, we can work on those skills right now, very early in the program. That way, when that time does come to start interviewing, you have confidence in that. So, again, that is why we are introducing this topic so early in your program. What is the purpose of the interview? It's an opportunity for you to meet the employer face to face or over the phone. Sometimes today, the first interview will be over the phone, and then if you get through that interview, you'll have a face to face interview. The interview is an opportunity for you to sell yourself, your strengths, your skills as they relate to the employer and that specific position. It's an opportunity for you to learn more about the position and the employer. We need to remember and we need to really keep in mind that also during that interview process, you are assessing the employer and the position to make sure it's a good fit for you, your career goals, your values, your needs, your family's needs. And so that right there should kind of lower your anxiety level just a tad because, yes, they are interviewing you for the position, but you need to remember that you are also interviewing them. You want to make sure that it's a great fit for you before you accept the position. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to break this down to 7 different steps of the interview. Make sure that you email me if you have any questions about this. I'm always here to help you. Steps to success. So, the key thing that I talk to every single student and every single graduate about is getting to know yourself. That sounds kind of silly. Of course, I know myself, but really think about it for a second. What are your skills? What are some things that you're really great at? What are your weaknesses? Many of us, if we just, if I were to ask you that right now, you would have trouble answering that question because we haven't taken the time to just sit down and write out a few things and really give that some thought. So that's the number one thing that I always talk to students and graduates about is really getting to know yourself. You need to be able to articulate your skills, your values. Here you go. Your interests, your abilities, and your long term plans. You need to be able to communicate those things to the employer. And you need to be able to give examples. You need to be able to give examples of the skills and the abilities that you have that will benefit that employer. The interviewer, they're looking for 3 C's. They're looking for confidence, credibility, and competence. So competence is your knowledge. Confidence, that's again why we're starting this so early in your program. I want you to be so confident walking into that interview process because you know yourself so well and you know you're going to do really great in this interview. And that's something that the interviewer is looking for. They want somebody who's going to have that confidence. You need to be able to think on your feet. So and also use common sense. And so that's something that you can work with your career services representative about, or work with them. Being able to think on your feet and just being creative, but also using your common sense when answering questions. Step number one. So, like I mentioned, I'm going to walk through the interview process with you. Step number one, do your homework. Research the company. Spend at least 20 to 30 minutes researching the company, getting as familiar as you can with that company. That will build your confidence going into that job interview. Know who you'll be meeting with. So you need to make sure when you receive that phone call that you have an interview, in a week or, in a few days, you need to make sure that you have a pen and paper with you and say, okay, great. Who's my interview with again? And write down that individual's first and last name for a couple reasons. One, that way when you walk into the office, you know exactly who you need to ask. You need to say, hi, I have an interview with, John Smith or whatever. But then second reason, you need to research that individual and look them up on LinkedIn and get to know that person a little bit. Figure out what their background is. How long have they been with the company? All those little things, all those little tiny pieces that you prepare and that you research will help build your confidence and you go in there feeling really great about the interview. Bring extra copies of your resume and your reference page. So, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, you want your resume printed on nice resume paper, but then your reference page needs to be on a separate document, again, printed on nice resume paper. I always say go into the interview with 3 to 5 copies of each, just because you might sit down and there might be 5 people interviewing you. That might be kind of that it's probably slim that would happen, but what if you want to be prepared? And I recommend bringing in some sort of, folder or like a fake leather binder or portfolio of some kind and having those resumes and that reference page in that binder. You don't want to be just carrying in a stack of paper, but have them in that folder or that binder. I don't want you to spend a bunch of money on this. This is, a few dollars, at Target or at Walmart, on some sort of a professional looking folder or binder. And then on the other side of that folder or binder, you're going to have a notepad. And I'm going to tell you why you're going to have that notepad here in just a little bit. Absolutely no phone, no bags, no gum, no family members. I mean, goodness, I have heard it all. So absolutely do not bring any of that stuff into the interview. Women, I usually recommend bringing in, a tiny purse, and your folder or your portfolio, but don't bring in some huge gaudy purse because it's just something that you have to think about, and you don't want to spend time, clunking around this huge bag and I mean, you just don't want to put yourself in that situation. So, absolutely no phone, no bags, no gum, family members, children, husbands. I mean, nothing. Okay, don't bring any of that. You just need to walk into that office all by yourself. If somebody drives you to the interview, that's fine, but just make sure that that individual waits in the car for you. Arrive 10 minutes before your scheduled interview time. You don't want to arrive or walk into the building any earlier than that because that can kind of be a nuisance to the employer. So I recommend, plan on pulling into the parking lot 10 or 15 minutes early. And if you arrive 15 minutes early, that's fine. Sit in your car for 5 minutes and just, prepare yourself a little bit more. Or play, a song that gets you all jacked up and gets you ready. But definitely walk into the office about 10 minutes before. Be familiar with the location of the business. So unfortunately, I have seen it way too many times that students and graduates are calling me saying, Stephanie, I cannot find the business or the location of this office. I swear it was on this street corner and it's not there. So I'm on Google Maps and trying to figure out where they are versus where the office is, and it's just very stressful. So do not do that to yourself. If your interview is a couple days out, take the time. It will be well worth it. Take the time to drive to the office to know exactly where you're going. You want to have confidence. You don't want to stress yourself out on the way to the interview. When arriving to the business, make sure you're courteous to all employees. So I always tell our graduates that your interview starts the second you pull into that parking lot. So make sure you don't have, super loud music blaring, or make sure you're not smoking or anything like that. You want to represent yourself as a professional as soon as you pull into that parking lot. And then when you walk into the office or to the building, make sure you're courteous to all employees and to everybody in the lobby. Oftentimes the receptionist is trained to kind of take notes on how you react to others and how you respond and how you treat the receptionist. So make sure that you are just on interview mode as soon as you pull into that parking lot. A couple of key things: make sure that you eat before the interview, make sure your stomach is settled, avoid too much caffeine or too much sugar. I am one of those individuals that naturally has a ton of energy, but I also love my coffee in the morning. So my usual 2 cups in the morning, I would maybe only have one before an interview, just so that way, I'm not overly, loud or rambunctious during the interview. Step number 2, build confidence. I've probably said the word confidence like 6 or 7, maybe even 8 times already. So we really need to put some focus on this and make sure that we are building our confidence. Why do interviews make us nervous? Because we know that other individuals are judging us. We get worried. We are constantly thinking about the what ifs. But we need to realize that a little anxiety is a good thing. It helps us. It helps us have the preparation focus and actually heightens our performance a little bit. So a little bit of anxiety going into the interview is totally normal and actually a good thing. But we just need to do our part by practicing and preparing to really build our confidence going into the interview. So we need to be intentional and take some time to do this. Step number three, make a great first impression. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. So be prepared, arrive early, dress professionally, and just breathe. Make sure you have confidence when you walk into that office. Put your best self forward every single day. Again, professional dress, eye contact, people are paying attention to your facial expressions, so we need to practice those and just be aware of what facial expressions we have. Body posture, our gestures, the handshake. So we need to make sure that we are practicing our handshake and that we have confidence in that. That is a very easy way to send a message that we care, that we're trustworthy, and that we have a genuine concern. Having that really strong, confident handshake. One quick question or comment that I get from a lot of students is eye contact. That might be something that's not natural for everyone. And so, how long do I look at somebody in the eyes before I kind of glance away? And usually, you look in somebody's eyes long enough to determine that person's eye color, and then you can kind of glance away. So that way, they don't think you're like strangely staring at them or something. But this is something that, again, just takes practice. You need to practice your eye contact. That shows that you are truly interested and that you have confidence. Back to the handshake really quick. Another question that I get from a lot of students is how many times do I pump? I would say, whatever is natural, 2 or 3 pumps, and that's plenty. Make sure that we're smiling. Again, that displays confidence. Make sure that we're sitting up straight, practicing our body posture. All those little things people read into and they make judgments on us. And so I might be, really confident going into the interview, but if I'm slouched and I'm, not sitting up straight and I'm not smiling, they're going to read into that I'm either super nervous and can't control it, or two, that I'm not a confident person. And I don't want them to think that of me. And so these are all little things that we need to practice. Interview attire. So this is a question that I get from a lot of students and a lot of graduates. So I just want to touch base on or talk about this really quickly. Whatever you wear into the interview, that's also the same attire that you need to wear when you're dropping off your application. Okay, so let's say you're dropping off a resume or dropping off an application for an opening. You want to make sure that you're dressed in your interview attire. Dress for the position that you want, not for the position that you have. Okay, that's something that we always tell our students. Dress for the position that you want, not for the position that you have. Men, make sure you wear a white t-shirt under your dress shirt. Have somebody help you with your tie if you choose to wear one. I don't think a tie is necessary for every single position that you wear or every single position that you interview for, but you want to look professional and you want to look confident also. Always wear a belt. Always wear a belt with your dress pants, men. Women, make sure you have your hair pulled back, go easy on the makeup, one ring on a hand, no sleeveless shirts. Make sure that our clothes are pressed. Make sure that we wear closed-toed shoes. You don't want to wear any flip-flops or sandals going into an interview. Most importantly, I want you to be comfortable going into the interview. So I don't want you to wear anything too tight or too showy. That's why I always say, dress really conservatively going into the interview. You want to be comfortable. That's a key thing. I don't want you to have to be, thinking about, your legs showing too much during an interview. You have enough things to worry about. So make sure you're just dressed comfortably and professionally. Let's see here. Like I mentioned earlier, you can bring in, a little purse if you want. I actually recommend just leaving your cell phone in the car. You don't want to have to, be in a situation where you accidentally you forget to put it on vibrate and the phone rings and it's just like this really awkward moment. So, I just recommend leaving the phone in the car or shutting it off completely. Step number four, establish credibility. This is so important. Will you fit in with a company? So I want you to keep in mind that they have looked at your resume, they know your skills, that's based off your resume, they know your experience, and they want to bring you in for an interview. So that should boost your confidence as well. Now they're trying to see if you will fit in with their company. 3 credibility factors: your words, your voice, and your appearance. Those are the 3 things that the interviewer is looking for to establish your credibility: your words, your voice, and your appearance. Gaining credibility quickly is very, very important. So make sure you listen to what they say, you're learning, you question if they bring up something that, maybe is a red flag or that you don't quite understand. Ask those questions and understand what's going on. So gaining credibility is very important during the interview process. Step number 5, answering questions. Rule of 3. So you want to show your skills, your experience, and your competence. Okay, so you don't want to you want to really focus on your strengths here. So you want to show again your skills, so or your skill set through your past experience and your competence, your knowledge. So that's kind of where we talk about your education. So that's what you really want to focus on. You never want to say anything negative about yourself during an interview. Never, never, never. And don't ever say anything negative about yourself. You want to always focus on your strengths. Let's see here. Some sample questions. Or yeah, respond, don't react. So that's something that I always tell our students and our grads. Take a second and respond to the question instead of just jumping at it and reacting to the question. Really take a few minutes and think about, or a few seconds, think about the question, maybe repeat it in your mind and respond instead of just, throwing out the first thing that comes to mind. Some example questions that you'll hear, tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you know about our company? Why did you choose this major or this industry? What weaknesses do you have? Why are you interested in this position? Those are all examples of traditional interview questions. Tell me a little bit about yourself is going to be asked. I can almost guarantee you every single interview you go on, they're going to ask you, tell me a little bit about yourself. And you want to make sure that you stay professional. Never say anything personal about yourself. So don't say, well, I'm a mom of 4 kids and, you just, that's not good. Don't ever say anything personal. They want to know all business. So when they say, tell me a little bit about yourself, that's your opportunity to talk about your education, your skill set, and your experience. Behavioral questions using the STAR method. So behavioral questions are questions that employers ask and they want to know true stories. So they're going to ask you questions about a conflict or a challenge or teamwork or your communication about a true experience that you had. So let me give you an example. Tell me about a time that you had a conflict in your last position and how you overcame that conflict. So that's an example of a behavioral question. So how you answer those behavioral questions is using the STAR method. So obviously preparing. So you want to have these stories thought through before the interview. S stands for situation. So you want to describe a specific event or situation that you are in. T is for task. Explain the task that you had to complete. Make sure you're highlighting any specific challenges, or things that, that you had to overcome. A, your action. So talk about your action steps. So what steps did you take to overcome that situation? R, your end result. So really show your effort here and show, that you are able to be a problem solver. So when you are asked behavioral questions in an interview, you want to answer them using the STAR method. Employers make assumptions about your future performance based on past behaviors and attitudes. Behavioral questions require that you offer concrete, specific examples to reveal these skills to the employer. So you want to, again, take some time before the interview and just, you can Google behavioral questions asked during an interview and just go through those and prepare yourself for that. Step number 6 is asking questions. So this is something that is so important. So if you guys take anything away from this presentation, please make some mental notes that you have to ask questions at the end of the interview. This shows that you're truly interested in the position, that you really desire to be working for that company. So you want to make sure that you reference your research. So let me give you an example. So like I talked about at the very beginning of the presentation, I said it's so important that you research the company for 20 to 30 minutes. So during the questions that you ask, you want to make sure that you're referencing that research. So an example would be, I was on your website and I saw that you have a community event coming up. Is that something that you require or that you encourage most employees to attend? You can say, because I think that that's a really neat, environment to work for or, culture of a company. But when you do that, that tells the employer that you have researched them and they love that. So make sure as you're researching the company, you try to find some questions to ask them. Follow up on any issues raised during the interview. So like I mentioned a little bit ago, if there's a red flag or if you have an issue with something, make sure you ask that during the interview. Go with 5 to 7 questions prepared to ask them. So a while back, I was talking about that folder, that portfolio that you're bringing into the interview with you. With on one side, you have your resume and your reference page. On the other side, you have your notebook. Have written out 5 to 7 questions to ask them. You are going to be, anxious enough for the interview, so do not stress yourself out any more than you have to. Don't try to memorize these questions. Write them out. Do yourself a favor. Write out those questions. And then when they say, do you have any questions for me? Say, yes, I do. And have that folder, open it up and ask them, maybe 2 or 3 questions, 3 or 4. And I say go with 5 to 7 because they will probably answer a few of those in the interview process. Now, never ask about pay or benefits during the interview. That's something that they will either bring up, or when they offer you the position, you can discuss that, or it might be discussed in the second interview. Okay, but you never ask about pay or closing the interview. The employer will initiate the closing of the interview. That's very important. You want to ask if there's anything else that you can provide. Ask about the next steps in the hiring process. So that way you know how long it's going to take for them to fill this position, so you know when you should hear back from them. Ask for a business card so you can contact the interviewer. Super important. Make sure you ask for that business card. And you need to prepare a closing statement such as, thank you for taking the time to interview me for this opportunity. I'm very interested in this position, and finish that out. But you want to make sure that you express that you're truly interested in the position. End with your professional handshake that all of you have been practicing. Step number 7. So this is the last step of the interview process. To nail the interview on the head, follow up with a handwritten thank you note within 24 hours. If for some reason you cannot get a handwritten thank you note in the mail that day of the interview or the next day, be sure to at least send an email thanking them for their time that they've taken out of their day to interview you, and again, express your interest in the position. That is why you asked for that business card. So that way you have proper spelling of that person's name and you have their email address. And that's all I have for you today to talk about interviewing. So, again, your career service representative is here to help you. Please make sure you're reaching out to that individual, building that relationship. It's really important that you have a strong relationship with your career service representative because we are going to be here every step of the way throughout your program and to help you land that dream job, to start your career, not a job. We kind of joke around and say a job is stands for just over broke, but we want you to be in your career and we're going to work hard with you. So make sure you're taking time to really develop that relationship with your career service representative. Again, this in the pink where it says career services, that's on My Course Connection in the career services page. Make sure again that you are connecting with your career service rep on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Again, the job journey is there for you to download, save to your desktop. You can use it as a great reference. And then again, make sure that we're friends on Facebook and that you've connected with the Career Services Facebook page. And also, your every single program that we have on all 3 campuses has their own Facebook page. So if you just Google, or not Google, excuse me, but if you search on Facebook, Career Community Care College, Medical Billing and Coding, you're going to find a Facebook page that's for that group. So please make sure that you seek that page out. And if you need help finding it, shoot me an email and I'll send you the direct link. If that's easier, I can definitely do that for you. But again, your career service rep posts positions on that Facebook page. We post a lot of articles, a lot of blogs, just a lot of great information that will help you have a successful career. So we are here to help you. Make sure you utilize your resources and just try to work ahead and just, do your very best. Your career is just ahead. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.